Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Spiritual Saturday Book Club. My name is Pastor Niral. As you will notice, today is session 15 of my book club, and the book that we're actually going through is Gurus for Higher Enlightenment for Sale. Now, a quick overview of what this book is. This book is a summary of a marathon teaching that His Eminence Tsem Rinpoche gave many years ago in relation to three subjects. The first was in relation to the Guru. The second was in relation to the Dharma Center. And the third was a little bit about personal practice. This book, when it came out, was a little bit controversial because His Eminence actually talked about issues that aren't usually talked about within Dharma centers, or at least not publicly talked about within Dharma centers, but is something that His Eminence thought that would be very useful and a very important text to refer to for the modern day spiritual seeker, somebody interested in Buddhism and somebody going deeper into Buddhism, and about the relationship with the Guru, and also about how to view a Dharma center and how a Dharma center should be run. And thirdly, about spiritual practice. So, before we begin, I'm just going to refresh my page to see who is online today, and then I will get started. So at the moment, my screen is loading. So I see that Mr. Lam is online. Good morning. Alice is also online. Yiman and Sukfan, you're all online. Thank you very much for joining, very regular people. And it's good to see you back and continuing on with the book club. Hanafu is also online. Good morning to you as well. I hope everyone is doing well this Saturday morning. JC Go, good morning. I hope everyone is well. So I'm just going to get straight into it because I think most of you are regulars here and have seen these, participated in these book clubs before. Again, if you have any questions about anything that I'm going to talk about, or any other Dharma questions that you may have, please do ask on the comment section, and I will answer your questions today. So today's section is on sectarianism, and it's page 186. So I appreciate the fact that not everybody is going to have the text in front of them. Hence, I will be reading through the text today, and I will stop periodically to actually explain a little bit more if it needs explaining, or share some anecdotes, or even my experiences with Tsem Rinpoche. So, page 186, sectarianism. A Buddha is a Buddha without any lineage. What it means to be sectarian. If you are a member of the royalty of one country and you criticize your own royalty, it is okay because inadvertently you include yourself. For example, if I were in the royal family of a certain country and I criticized the royalty of my country, some people in our country or in the royal house may be a little unhappy, but it is generally acceptable because I have included myself in the criticism. I am showing humility and not pointing fingers at other people. However, it would not be acceptable if I started saying that our royalty was very good, but the royalty of another country was excessive, stupid, not educated, spoiled, and did not do anything for their country. Some people who are fanatical in our country might agree. Excuse me. But the people who can think will see that it is not a very good policy and not very diplomatic. They will say that we do not have the full information, that we are just looking at things in the media, and that we do not know the inside story. They will question our right to criticize other royal family. They will question our right to criticize another royal family of another country that people respect. Once we start saying those kinds of things, we invite criticism of our own royal family, and we open the doors for other people to criticize us also. Similarly, we have 4 sects of Buddhism in Tibet. Each sect has its own head, but the 4 sects have the same goal, priorities, and requirements for enlightenment. All their teachings are textually and scripturally sound, based on reliable sources that come from India, stemming back to Lord Buddha himself. And this is an important point to note here. Here that Rinpoche is saying that all 4 traditions or schools of Tibetan Buddhism, that is Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya, and Gelug, all have roots stemming back to Lord Buddha himself. Okay? Because all 4 of these traditions actually emphasize the need for the teachings to be traced back to Lord Buddha in one way or another. And hence, all of these 4 traditions are living traditions in the sense that the knowledge and the practices that each tradition individually carries can actually lead a person to enlightenment. And this is actually something that Rinpoche stressed again and again and again throughout many of his talks, throughout many of his teachings, many of his works. And why this is the case will be made clear as we read further in this section. I have not studied other lineages. I have read a little here and there, but I can never claim to know anything about the other lineages. However, I can tell you from observing the other lineages and erudite gurus that I do not see a difference between them and the erudite masters of my lineage. They are compassionate, just as the ones in my lineage are. If a master of another lineage becomes a Buddha or becomes highly attained, I do not see them as different from a master of my lineage. Once he attains enlightenment, a Buddha is a Buddha, without any lineage. Once we climb to the top of a mountain, it is what flag we put on the top of that mountain that identifies who we are. Actually, the person who climbs to the top is just a mountain climber who got to the top. I can only say that the other lineages, besides Gelugpa, are definitely valid because I have checked out their masters, their students, and disciples. I can say they are good because I look at the results. Just as in my own lineage, Gelugpa, they also have great practitioners and practitioners who do not really practice. It is the same. I do not say this politically. If I say this politically, I can see through my motive, and so can you. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama has mentioned during his teachings. What His Holiness says is correct. I believe it, but I am a critical person and I will still check it out and think about it. When one sect criticizes another sect, it is very, very serious. One sect has no right to criticize another sect. One sect has not fully studied another sect's or another school's tenets in order to have the knowledge to criticize or to say anything. That is why I would not ever criticize, even if I have studied it, and dare not, since I have never studied it. I would not even go in that direction. Prejudice and bias towards another sect or another form of Buddhism is dangerous, as explained in the Lamrim Chenmo. The karmic effect of saying negative things about other lineages is very damaging. Let's consider how dangerous it is to kill an animal. How bad the karma is to kill a person or a monk. We cannot kill a Buddha because a Buddha does not have the karma to be killed. But if we could kill a Buddha, imagine the incredible amount of negative karma that would arise from that action. The Lamrim says that if we spread sectarian views, it is understood, the other person accepts, and we rejoice. The 4 completing actions or the 4 factors of intention are complete. The demerit of spreading sectarian views is equal to killing 1,000 Buddhas. That is what His Holiness Pabongka Rinpoche explained. in the Lam Rim. Here we get to a point that Rinpoche has just mentioned, which I will talk a little bit about, is the 4 actions or the 4 intentions that create a full karma. Specifically, what Rinpoche was referring to here is negative karma. So when we actually talk about creating karma, there are actually 4 factors involved. The first factor is having the intention to engage in an action. The second factor is actually doing the action. All right. The third is actually completing the action, which I'll explain in a little while. And the fourth is rejoicing in the action. For example, here Rinpoche is talking about the action of the negative action of killing. So for you to create the full karma associated with killing, which is a negative karma, you would have to have these 4 things. So for example, if you have the intention to kill somebody, that is the first factor. The second factor is to actually get everything together that you need to kill the person, and actually going and engaging in that action. The third is actually completing the action. So in some cases, when we start performing an action, we actually stop ourselves. So for example, if I was going ahead to kill somebody, in this example, not that I actually would, but just given the example, if I go ahead and try to kill somebody, but halfway through I stop myself, that means I've only got 2 of the factors involved with creating a full karma of killing. However, if I complete the action, meaning the other person dies, then I've completed 3 of the factors. So I had the intention, I went to do the action, and I completed the action. Those are the 3 factors. At the end of that, after the person has passed away, if I rejoice in my action of killing that person, then I have all 4 factors of creating a full karma. And when that happens, I will need to bear the full brunt of the karmic effects of killing. However, if I stop myself at maybe after the first, or after the second, or after the third factor, I do not create the full karma of killing. So I only need to bear the brunt in the future of 3/4 of the full karma of killing, and not the full karma of killing. I hope that makes sense. Okay, if it doesn't, please let me know and I will explain it in a different way. Another thing that Rinpoche mentions here is Rinpoche here is actually quoting the Lam Rim. And in the Lam Rim, Rinpoche says that the Lam Rim itself states that if you are sectarian, it is equivalent to killing 1,000 Buddhas. Okay, the karma is that bad. And this actually comes from the Lam Rim. The Lam Rim is the foundational text. It's the core text within the Gelugpa tradition. So if you are practicing the Gelugpa tradition, there is no way and no recourse that you should actually be criticizing another religion. Another sect, whatever it may be, whichever sect it may be. But actually within the Lam Rim, I'm going to go one step further. Rinpoche here is talking about sectarianism within the traditions of Tibetan Buddhism. But I'm going to go one step further because I'm going to explain what the Lam Rim actually says. And the Lam Rim itself actually goes one step further. The Lam Rim itself actually includes every tradition of Buddhism. Okay? Whether you belong to the Theravada tradition, whether you belong to the Mahayana tradition, or whether you belong to the Vajrayana tradition. If you criticize the Theravada tradition, if you criticize the Mahayana tradition, it is equivalent to killing 1,000 Buddhas. You would accrue that much karma. So as Tibetan Buddhists practicing the Gelugpa tradition, within our the teachings of our tradition, it says not to criticize another sect or another entire school of Buddhism, no matter what it is. And this is something that Rinpoche lived up to very, very strongly. He adhered to this very, very strongly. If he heard that a student was criticizing another sect or another school of Buddhism, Rinpoche would actually intervene, would actually talk with that student and tell them not to, and tell them the reasons why. Each of the sects of Tibetan Buddhism and each school of Buddhism leads to enlightenment in some way or another. It is just that the path that we are practicing may be a bit different. And when it comes to the Theravada or the Mahayana tradition, as practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism, we need to realize that our school and our tradition is based upon the Mahayana tradition. And the Mahayana tradition itself is based upon the Theravada tradition. Okay? So we need to understand that and make sure that we do not even inadvertently say something negative about another sect or another school of Buddhism. So just wanted to make that point clear. And that is what the Lamrim tells us to do. Okay, I've seen some more people come on. Jerry is online. I think that's Ziying and JP. Thank you very much for joining. So I'm going to continue on. So now we're on page 188. If other people dare spread sectarian views, we should have great compassion for them. Never listen and just cut their talk off. We should not entertain or listen to them. Remember, we are trying to gain merit. If the demerit of spreading sectarian views is equivalent to killing 1,000 Buddhas, then all the merit we create from doing prostrations, making offerings, and meditating will go down the drain. Symbolically, the amount of practice we do can fill up one bathtub. If we were to put that bathtub into the ocean, it becomes nothing. The karma of killing 1,000 Buddhas is like the ocean. When we engage in sectarian talk, it is like putting our little bathtub of merit into the ocean and wondering what happened. If we were to judge another school or sect of Buddhism and say they are not as good as ours, then we are also presupposing that no attainments can be gained from their practice. It is saying that in their lineage there are no enlightened gurus, no high-level, attained teachers or practitioners. It is impossible. It cannot be. Every lineage and every school of Buddhism in every country, everywhere, has elite, erudite, practiced masters who prove to us that if we practice each school individually and correctly, we will gain the results. The techniques and the way the different schools are formed may differ a little, but due to time, place, geography, and culture, but that does not mean they are not complete paths in themselves. It is sectarianism to have biased views against another lineage, another school, another form, based on prejudice, ego, self-centeredness, insecurity, fear, and ignorance. Or to think it might not be good if someone is not practicing what we are practicing. You will never see, feel, hear, or sense one bit of sectarianism in a real practitioner of Buddhism who wishes to become a fully enlightened Buddha for the benefit of others. Why would a real Dharma practitioner speak about something that was never on their mind? Why would they dwell on or express things that are not true? Real Buddhist practitioners do not lie or have a baseless bias. We cannot even be biased against other religions as spoken by the perfect Buddha and as taught by the perfect Dalai Lama. If we cannot be biased against other religions, how can we be biased against different sects within our own religion? So that section actually brings up a few good points. And if anybody does have any questions regarding that, please ask. The new sectarianism. So now we're on page 189. A new phenomena is emerging in cities where Dharma centers belonging to the same lineage are criticizing and saying things about each other. They dare not criticize another lineage because that would be like one royal house criticizing another royal house, and they have no right to say anything. But they criticize each other within their own sect or lineage. If they say something about their own lineage and their own centers, it looks like they are being very brave and honest to criticize themselves, their lineage, and their practice. Some centers, unfortunately, are heavy in competition and they are dying to get more members. Their members will go all out to criticize another center of their own school of Buddhism, say all types of negative things, and make up all types of stories. Some of their members are well known, so people think they must be right, and they listen. What they are really doing when they compete with each other, criticize or put down another center or guru from their own lineage, is trying to steal or influence members from other centers away. If there are 2, 3, or 4 Gelugpa centers in the city, for example, their practices would be very similar, and their lineage would stem back to the same guru and the same traditions, so it would be easier, in inverted commas, for them to make the switch and assimilate students into their own centers. If they get rid of all the other centers that belong to the same school of Buddhism, they are the only one left. There would be no more competition, would there? Certainly, they do not have competition from the other schools of Buddhism. For example, there may be 5 Gelugpa centers in a city, which then dissolves into one because one center has said nasty things about the other 4 centers and destroyed them. Now there is only one Gelugpa center in the whole city, so everybody who is attracted to Lama Tsongkhapa would go to them. Doesn't that sound suspicious? The bottom line is their motivation for taking away members for their own personal and financial gain. It is very sensitive, but that is what is happening. That is very bad. They are not thinking of the bigger picture, where they are going against Guru devotion or breaking their samaya. What they are doing is making themselves look very, very bad. They bring their prestige down, and they bring the prestige of their Guru down, because one day they will be proven wrong. When they are proven wrong, they look ridiculous. Whatever they are promoting is not a promotion anymore. They make their gurus look very bad. They make their lineage look very bad, because to other lineages and to new people, it looks like there is no cohesion or harmony within their own lineage. It is like 5 kids from the same family fighting with each other. That family would not look cohesive or harmonious at all. Criticizing other sects is a heinous crime. Criticizing our own sect can be considered heinous also. It destroys Dharma from the inside. It gives others an impression that it is not stable. When people can argue and hurt each other for philosophical differences, it is horrible. When people argue about the right incarnation of this guru or that guru because they do not know which one is right, or when they fight about certain practices within the lineage, where one side says it is good and another side says it is bad, and they call the police on each other, it gives a very bad image. People think it is safer to criticize within their own lineage because it will not look sectarian. We cannot put the label sectarian on it, but it is actually worse than being sectarianism. It is cutting off our own fingers. Killing an enemy is already very bad. Killing ourselves is worse. Why would we want to kill ourselves? When we destroy our own school of Buddhism and criticize it, we are helping our school. Are we helping our school, or are we destroying it? When we destroy one school of Buddhism, how can our school grow bigger in prestige? Or are we building our foundation on ashes of another destroyed group of Buddhists from our own school? We have enough obstacles from fanatical, insecure practitioners of other faiths whose mission in life is to tell us we are doing the wrong thing and they are doing the right thing. If we tell them the opposite, they become really, really unhappy. They are a very bad representation of their faith because they do not respect anyone else at all. When they try to convert others or they say negative things about other faiths, it is tantamount and equivalent to insulting and putting other people's intelligence down. They are saying, you are stupid, I'm smart, you are in the wrong, and I am right. We already have that obstacle. We do not need to create a further obstacle within our own faith, and then from within our own lineage. If we continue to do this, we are going to be the only one practicing our lineage, standing on the top of a hill by ourselves. How to handle it? Sometimes there are some political issues with our religion. Among the religious groups in Tibetan Buddhism, for example, there are some issues with practices or not being able to know or decide which guru's incarnation is the right one. Leave it to the gurus to take care of it. Why do we need to bring those issues here to Kuala Lumpur and add it to our samsara? Don't we have enough samsara? Why would we want to add the Tibetan samsara to our samsara here? One faction might say this practice is good, and another faction might say this practice is not good. If we are in the faction that says it is good, we just do it. If we are in the faction that says it's not good, then we do not do it. Just keep quiet. Once we take sides, it does not end. Ego gets involved, and we have to protect the side we have taken. A lot of politics does go on. We might ask why this happens within Buddhism. It is because the people we hear about all the time are the ones who create the politics under the guise of Buddhism. There are people who really practice, but we do not hear from them because they do not create politics. There are hundreds of great practitioners in the monasteries who we never hear or know about because they just quietly practice Dharma. My stance is to not take any side. We remain quiet. If I take either side, I will be political. If I go on this side, these people will hate me. If I go on that side, those people will hate me. If I go on this side, I hate myself. If I go on that side, I hate myself also because I constantly have to speak for this or side or against that side. Then I do not speak about Dharma at all. So I choose to remain quiet. We should make our center and our lineage grow with the correct motivation. Most importantly, we should make our center and lineage grow not at the expense of another center or lineage. Isn't that ethical? Isn't that human? Isn't that compassion? Isn't that kindness? Isn't that Dharma? I think it is. If, for example, there are 3 or 4 Nyingma centers in the city, Nyingma practitioners should have pride in their own lineage, not at the expense of others. They should make their Nyingma centers expand, become better, bigger and better, and grow to show that their lineage is unified and good, and project a good face of the Nyingma lineage. Why should they fight among themselves? For us, within the Gelugpa sect, if we all pray to Lama Tsongkhapa, we must embody Lama Tsongkhapa's qualities. It is okay and acceptable if we do not want to be involved with the other sects because we have our own traditions, but we should never criticize. If other centers have events and activities, we should, if we can, give a donation or offer help, show harmony and love. There is nothing wrong in making our own school of Buddhism grow, as long as it is not at the expense of another school of Buddhism. Buddhism is Buddhism. Okay, so I see we have, I see some more people come on. Samfoon, Jillian, Hengyan. Let's see, I have a question from Iman. Hi, Pastor Niral and everyone. If we are Buddhist in this life and reborn as human in our future lives, are the merits and karma the detriments of whether we will are merits and karma the determinants of whether we will meet the Dharma in our future lives? And 2, does our root guru change from one lifetime to another lifetime? If yes, why? Those are very, very good questions. So let me answer the first one. Are merits and karma the determinants, of whether we will meet the Dharma in our future lives? The answer in short is yes. Okay? When we practice the Dharma and when we are transforming our minds, we actually create the merits that is necessary for us to meet the Dharma again in future lifetimes. It works in a couple of different ways. The first way is, as we begin the path of mind transformation, you create the imprints of actually transforming your mind to become better. So you actually generate the merits that in your future lifetime you will be able to meet with similar or the same or similar teachings to be able to continue on your path of mind transformation. That's number one. Number two, when we are practicing the Dharma, for example, every time we do our sadhana, we are creating a connection with the enlightened beings. So this connection doesn't end with this life. This connection continues on into our next lives, all right? Because that connection is based on merit and is based on transformation of the mind. For example, if you practice Chenrezig strongly in this life, and every day you engage in the prayers to Chenrezig, every day you engage in your Om Mani Padme Hums, all right? You're creating a very strong connection and a very strong bond with Chenrezig. So in your next life, you will meet with the practice of Chenrezig again, which naturally means that you will also meet with the Dharma, because Chenrezig's practice is the Dharma. His path is not just praying and doing mantra. His path is also transforming your mind to be a more compassionate person. So in that sense, you will meet with the Dharma again. Right? So it is the merit that you've generated in this life that will lead you to meet with the Dharma again. The third way is actually aspirational prayers. Now you will see in the completion dedication that we do, not only that, but in some of the aspirational prayers that we recite, it links us to a particular lineage, a particular practice. For example, in the completion dedication, you have verses to always may the tradition of Lama Tsongkhapa flourish. May I meet with the tradition of Lama Tsongkhapa again. So that creates the merit that you create a strong bond with the Gelugpa tradition. So in your future lifetime, you will meet the Dharma according to the Gelugpa tradition again. Now, depending on what lineage you practice, there will also be aspirational prayers specific to that particular lineage. So if you in your Sakya, for example, you will recite prayers that will create a strong bond with the Sakya tradition, and in your next lifetime, you will reconnect with that tradition. All right? Now, moving on to the second question, does our root guru change from one lifetime to another lifetime? If yes, why? This is a very good question, and the answer is your root guru can be the same incarnation, or it can be somebody completely different. Okay? For example, in this lifetime, for example, we've created a strong bond with His Eminence Tsem Rinpoche. Okay? In our next lifetime, if our guru devotion is very strong, that's one factor. If Tsem Rinpoche has been recognized and enthroned, that's as the reincarnation of Tsem Rinpoche, that's the second factor. The third factor is if we are born in the same area or have a means to reconnect with our guru, be that physically. We also have online, that's also another means. So that's a third factor, to meet with the same root guru. So there are actually many factors involved. Also within our lineage, for example, you have various practices that create a stronger connection with your guru. All right? That will carry over into your next life. So for example, in this life, if you consider Tsem Rinpoche to be your guru, you have guru devotion. If your Guru devotion is strong and you engage in certain practices to strengthen that Guru devotion, then in a future lifetime, you will meet Tsem Rinpoche again. It doesn't necessarily have to be your next rebirth. Okay, it could be maybe 2 rebirths down the line if you haven't progressed along the path of transformation and achieved enlightenment already. Okay. Rinpoche explained before that when you practice a certain lineage, you should make aspirational prayers to either meet with the same Guru again, or meet with your root Guru, or meet with that particular tradition. Rinpoche has explained that when you have Guru devotion, in your next life, you might not meet the exact same Guru, but you will meet a qualified Guru who belongs to the same tradition, who has the same lineage of practices, who can help you to continue your path of transformation within that particular lineage. So it is not necessary for you to meet the same root Guru in your next life, but if you have the strong karma and the affinity, you will. Also, if you have the strong karma and the affinity, it is not the same Guru you will meet, but you will meet the same lineage, the same practices, and the Guru you do meet will help you to further the practices that you have been engaged in this life. Okay? Iman, let me know if I answered your questions. Okay? All right, so I don't see any more questions at the moment, so I'm going to continue on to the next section. Which is all about ordination vows. Okay, now this is not something, perhaps it's not something that everybody here would be interested in, but it is something that is crucial to know. Okay, a monk is a state of his mind, not what he wears. Why are there vows? In the Vinaya, which is the rules and the regulations for monks, Buddha mentioned that women who become ordained should be on a lower status than men who become ordained. For the last 2,000 years, it was fine. But people who hear that today would say that it is wrong. Now, we know that it is wrong, but historically there was a reason for the Buddha to say that. During his time, Buddha was introducing a whole new faith to society. He may have been a Buddha, but everybody else who was receiving the teachings was not a Buddha. And the ancient Indian society at the time had very strict rules for women. Women were not of equal status to men then. The women never had the freedom that the men had. A woman running around with another male who was not her relative was very bad for the man and the woman, because it was considered bad manners and meant something not good. Buddha had to be very sensitive to the place, the people, and the culture. He was starting a new order of monks within a society where women were second-class citizens. If he was to ordain women and put them on the same level as men, with the same monasteries and the same dwelling places, it would have been very scandalous. Society would not have accepted it, and they would have stopped the movement of Buddhism. So Buddha separated the women into nunneries. They were not allowed to live together or sit together. In ancient Indian society, men sat in front and women sat at the back. So monks also sat in front and nuns sat at the back to reflect the order of society then. This was done to help the Buddha's teachings gain adherence and acceptance. It was a cultural move of acceptance that the Buddha had to implement. It is not like that anymore. Now monks and nuns sit equally, which is the way it should be. Buddha had compassion, but all beings are the same. Buddha had compassion and all beings are the same, but he had to work with the society then. He had no choice. Buddha would have known if something was right or wrong, but he could not fight the whole society at the time. If he did not... Wait a minute. Excuse me. Buddha would have known if something was wrong or right. But he could not fight the whole society at that time if they did not have the karma to receive the truth then. In time, people would understand Dharma, and then wrong would become right. The major root vows of the Vinaya cannot be manipulated, moved, or changed, but Buddha has said that although the rules, which is 253 vows, were made for the Sangha, the 249 auxiliary minor vows could be changed in the future according to time and place. For example, monks were not allowed to wear a cloth between their thighs, from the front of their genitalia to the back. The reason for this was to avoid stimulation. But if you have a bunch of monks running around now with nothing there, it would be very questionable. So just to reiterate, there are 253 core monastic vows, and there are 249 auxiliary or secondary vows. The core vows, which are the 253, cannot be changed or manipulated. They have to be adhered at all times. But the 249 vows, which are auxiliary or secondary, can be changed over time. Okay? Also, the monks used to bathe in the river naked. They had very little clothes, they did not have underwear, and because it was hot, they would take off their robes to bathe. Problems arose from that. The village people would get a free show. Some of the monks were tall, dark, and handsome, and that created problems. So Buddha said, you cannot go into lakes and rivers and bathe naked. But these things can change. These kinds of rules do not apply anymore, because who goes to bathe in the river naked now? Monks are not allowed to work in the fields because they might kill insects. But when Ganden monks from Tibet fled to South India, they had to work in the fields or the whole religious tradition would die. They had to either break a minor rule and confess it, or let the Dharma die because they sat in a jungle waiting for someone else to clear the forest for them. Those things can be broken. And with the right intent, if I dare say so, I do not think the repercussion is that horrible. The minor rules are more cultural and can be changed, but it must be by a council of Sangha members. Buddha specifically advised that the council of elders must convene, talk, and decide together in order for minor rules to be changed. The major rules, however, cannot be changed. In a tradition like Dharma that has been around for such a long time, it cannot be just one person changing the rules, even if he is famous, well-known, big, or powerful. Even if he had the power to change things, someone else could change it again when he dies. When he is alive, he might say white, not black. When he dies, someone else says black, not white. And it goes back and forth. One generation says yes, another generation says no. It creates confusion on the whole samsaric level. If we want to go down that road, to say our gurus are wrong and our practice is wrong, if we want to set a precedent where eminent people can change things just like that, we will start a trend. Other eminent people will arise and change things again and again and again. Disrobement, what it means. Now this is an important term. Disrobement, or what it means to disrobe. When a monk takes ordination, he has 4 root vows that cannot be broken, and another 249 auxiliary vows that he must hold. These vows are on the basis of the refuge vows, which he would have already taken. A monk can be a Mahayana monk or a Hinayana monk, but both the vows are exactly the same. It is the motivation that makes it different. The vows of a monk are called pratimoksha vows. Moksha in Sanskrit means the end of suffering or nirvana. Prati means self. Therefore, pratimoksha means self-liberating vows. Lama Tsongkhapa's Guru Yoga mentions 3 sets of vows. The first set is pratimoksha. The second set is bodhisattva. The third set is tantrayana. For lay people, pratimoksha vows are likened to refuge vows. The three sets of vows can also be refuge vows, bodhisattva vows, and tantric vows. For a monk to disrobe, he has to be in front of at least 4 people who are sound in mind and knowledge, who are alert and awake, and who understand the significance of what is going on. He has to pronounce 3 times to them, "I give up my vows," and think that he has no more vows. Then he has no more vows. Or he can go to his guru and offer the vows back in the same manner. The second way is if any of the 4 root vows are broken. For example, stilling. My pronunciation has gone out the window this morning. I do apologize. The second way is if any of the 4 root vows are broken. For example, stealing with intention and the completion of the act, killing with intention and completion of the act, etc. If any one of the 4 root vows is broken with the 4 factors of intention, he wants it, he does it, the act is completed, and he is happy, then although only one was broken, only one vow was broken, all is lost and he is disrobed. The 4 transgressions which cause a monk to be disrobed are lying, killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. An example of lying is talking about attainments that you do not have, and the person you lied to believes you. For killing, there must be intent. The object must be a human. The action is completed, the person actually dies, and we rejoice. If a monk kills someone by accident, for example, he accidentally runs him over and the person dies, then he is not disrobed. He has the karma of killing that person, of course, and he has to purify that karma, but he is not disrobed because he has not broken his vows. If a monk steals, he takes an object, he keeps it, and has the feeling that it is his. Whether the other person knows or not, he is disrobed. The last is sexual intercourse in any of the orifices, which means the monk's genitalia is inserted into the orifice. He performs the action and completes it inside the orifice, then the monk is disrobed. During Buddha's time, there was a nun who attended Buddha's teachings. When she attended the teachings, the monks made a lot of noise and told her she could not sit with the Sangha. She was told she must sit with the lay people because she had broken her vows. When asked why, it was revealed that she was raped by bandits while meditating in her cave. The Buddha then asked her, "Did you invite that?" She said no. "When they were doing the act, did you rejoice?" She said no. "And when they finished, were you happy? Did you think this was a good experience?" She replied to the Buddha, "No." The Buddha then said, "You are not disrobed. Please sit with the Sangha." Even though she was in full intercourse, she was not disrobed because there was no intent there. Some of the petty monks who did not know better accused her of being disrobed simply because she was raped and was in full sexual intercourse. But the Buddha said, no, intent is very important. If any of the 249 auxiliary vows are broken, a monk is not disrobed. He can repair infractions of these during monk confessionals held once a month, where the Sangha confess any minor infractions to the abbot. Any of the minor infractions that are broken, such as eating after noon, not meditating, wearing underwear, having hair longer than 2 fingers span, can be repaired. Those do not constitute breaking your vow because those depend on the situation or the circumstance. In extreme cases, in certain environmental conditions, monk may have to wear lay clothes, grow their hair long, or carry weapons. If it is for a purpose, then it is an infringement of the vows, but not a broken vow. It does not mean he is disrobed. For example, when His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama escaped from Tibet, he wore a layperson's outfit with a sling and even a rifle, because if he wore robes, they would have found him and captured him. Did he break his monk's vows? No. There was a reason for him doing that. In some places, it is not appropriate to wear monk's robes because if they do, they will be scorned or there will be danger or difficulty in entering the place. They do not wear or reside in monk's robes for the sake of being able to disseminate the Dharma. A monk who is not wearing robes or who has his hair longer than 2 fingers width is not breaking his vows. This does not merit being disrobed. Giving and taking back robes. If a monk or nun breaks any of the 4 root vows, he or she can never take robes again in this life again. They are disrobed. A good thing for a monk or nun to do is to go back and offer the remaining vows that are not broken to their guru. That is very important. He may have broken 1 vow and become disrobed, but he still has 3 other vows, and he would not want to break these also. It is better to repair the vows and give them back intact. That means that even if a monk killed somebody out of anger, I have never heard of this happening, he has not stolen, lied, or committed sexual misconduct. Once he becomes a layperson, there may be a danger that he would steal or lie, or he would break the remaining vows. He is not a monk anymore, but the vows are still there. He has to return these vows so he does not commit more error. When monks or nuns declare they are giving their vows back in front of 4 people or more, right? It should be four or more fully ordained people, or to the abbot, they may take the robes again when they are ready. They can give back and take their robes 7 times in one lifetime. For example, a monk at the monastery may find out that his parents are dying and suffering very much. He may need to go back to his family's hometown to work and support his parents for a few years. He can give his robes and vows back and go to work as a layperson, since he cannot work as a monk, to support his family. After he has taken care of his family, he can go back to the abbot and retake his vows again. I have seen holy monks give their vows back because they were in other countries, and had to work to support themselves and take the vows back later. My holy Mahasiddha master, Geshe Tsultrim Gyaltsen, did that. He gave his vows back properly in the 1980s because he had to support himself and had to work. About 10 years later, he went to His Holiness and received his vows back again. It is allowed as long as the vows are given back intact. There were monks in prisons in Tibet who were not allowed to wear their robes or cut their hair for 20 or 30 years. The minute they got out of the prison, they put their robes back on. Does that mean they are disrobed? Absolutely not. A monk is a state of his mind, not what he wears. There are other minor rules, like monks not being allowed to wear sleeves and having to cover the left side of their body. But what are the monks supposed to do if they are traveling to freezing cold places? His Holiness Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche wore sleeves when he traveled in America because it was very cold. Then his Zen would be folded and put on top. The 6th Dalai Lama, Changyang Gyatso, gave his vows back. He was a layperson, he had consorts, and he hung around in Lhasa. It was no problem at all. The previous Panchen Lama was a layperson for the last 30 to 40 years of his life, and he wore yellow chubas, traditional Tibetan clothes, all the time. The communists forced him to take a wife, so he took a wife to make them happy. It did not affect his attainments, and his incarnation came back. In the Tibetan tradition, no layperson can disrobe a monk or a nun. No layperson can touch or pull off their robes and say they are disrobed. The layperson does not have the authority to say anything to a monk. Lay people who do not understand the monk's vows, who have never studied the monk's vows, will say, "He is disrobed, and now he is robed again." When they talk like that, they reveal their ignorance and lack of knowledge. If it is lay people pointing fingers at the Sangha and not knowing the consequences, it is very derogatory and very dangerous, because they spread very, very unhealthy rumors which have repercussions. Okay, now I see I have more questions. Okay, Iman asks, Pastor Niral, is the motivation between an ordained nun or monk and a Dharma practitioner who works full-time in the Dharma environment different, as both are for Dharma and equally benefiting others? I am wondering what makes someone wanting to be an ordained nun or monk. Yes, there is a difference. The difference is when you're working in the Dharma full time, okay, it is for work purposes. I mean, you have the motivation to benefit. You are practicing Buddhism, you are practicing the Dharma, and you want to go one step further. So you decide to make a decision that affects where you work. Okay? Being a Dharma staff, meaning you are working in a Dharma environment, does not necessarily mean that your conviction in the Dharma, in practicing the Dharma and actually benefiting others, is super high. Okay? It just means that you were in the position to make a decision to further your Dharma path by working for the Dharma. Okay? It's one step. So, for example, what is the difference between a normal Dharma staff and a normal person coming to Kechara, a normal member? The difference is that a Dharma staff has taken one step extra, which is to devote their working life to the Dharma. And obviously, it will progress one's Dharma path, one's spiritual path, because now you are focused less on the materialistic side of society and more towards the spiritual side of it. So everything that you do, whether you are messaging one of your colleagues about work, whether you are arranging something, whether you are doing paperwork, whether you are leading people on a tour, whether you are cleaning, whether you are painting or fixing something in your Dharma center or your retreat center, it means that the action that you are doing is one step further in your spiritual transformation. Okay? I think it should be quite obvious. But Rinpoche has also said that just because you are Dharma staff, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are practicing the Dharma. For example, you might have that motivation to become a Dharma staff. And then, I'm being very blunt here, okay, but this is what Rinpoche said. When people become Dharma staff, they might have the intention of doing it, but as they go about doing their Dharma work, they might not be practicing the Dharma. They might have fallen back to their usual habits and tendencies of doing normal work, which is how they would be outside. For example, I'm going to give you an example. You have me, for example. Outside of, before I met the Dharma, when I was working in the secular environment, Perhaps I was very irritable and easily angered at my work colleagues because of something that I didn't think was done right, because of something that I had an issue with. So I would easily get angry at my colleagues. Now then fast forward and I come to work in the Dharma. So I'm supposedly a Dharma staff. I've made that life choice to work in a Dharma center and to benefit others. But am I really practicing the Dharma? Now, even within a Dharma center, you are still working with other people. Okay? So the same kind of situations will arise again. That there may be something that I am not happy with. There may be something that I don't agree with. But the question is, do I get angry? Do I fall back to the same tendencies and to the same habits that I had when I was outside? If I do, then I'm not actually practicing the Dharma. If, however, I make a conscious effort to curb my anger, to put into practice the methods that reduce my anger in the situations where I would get angry, then I would be practicing the Dharma. All right? So those people who you actually see within a Dharma community or a Dharma center, who you can actually see their minds have been transformed in the way they act and the way they behave, those are real Dharma staff according to Rinpoche. Okay? Then you have a monk or a nun. Now this is a whole nother level. Okay? This is a whole nother level purely because of the amount of vows that a monk and nun has to keep. All right? Now, I can't get into the vows too much, but each of the vows actually stop you from doing something negative. Okay? So, if you're... How to explain it? All right. If you're on the outside, you're a normal person. Okay? Maybe because you're not living with that much. I'm not talking about even somebody in the Dharma, just somebody who doesn't know Dharma, someone who doesn't know anything about Buddhism. They do this much negative actions. Okay? When you start practicing the Dharma, and you're a member of a Dharma center or whatever, and you start practicing the Dharma, your motivation is one step higher. So it becomes the amount of actions that you do that are negative becomes here. All right? Then you have the motivation to take one step further and become Dharma staff or become a full-time volunteer or whatever, and to devote the majority of your time in your waking life to Dharma, to benefiting others. And if you are practicing the Dharma correctly and you just haven't switched environment from a secular office into a Dharma place, but you're exactly the same. If you have the motivation and you're practicing the Dharma, then the amount of negativity you create now comes here. All right? But when you take the vows of a monk or a nun, okay, the amount of negativity that you create, all right, negative karma that you create, or just karma in general, is here. Because the vows themselves restrict you from performing any negative actions whatsoever. Okay? In relations to the body, the speech, and the mind. And when you do that, you are thoroughly creating no or minimal negative karma. And every day you live with those vows, you generate the merit. The motivation is different. Why? Because if you ask an ordinary member to either become a Dharma staff or a monk or a nun, they're going to say it's a completely different thing. And it's true, it is a completely different thing. It can be a progressive thing. For example, you go from a member to a Dharma staff, then to a monk or a nun in the future. It can progress that way, but your motivation changes. For example, your motivation to come in from a normal member to become a Dharma staff, that is one motivation. But the motivation from there to become a monk or a nun is completely different. For example, even within Kechara, we have many staff that have been around for years. But not all of them have the motivation to become a monk or a nun, because it is a very big step. There are a lot of vows that you need to keep, rules that you need to follow, and that is exactly why Rinpoche has made us pastors that wear white, Sangha, to be. It is to actually, one thing is actually to train us to live like a monk or a nun, to live by the vows that we will take in the future. But secondly, also to see how strong our motivation is. Because if we can go for a period of time where we're undergoing training and we are keeping our vows, and our motivation is still there to become a monk or a nun, when we do become a monk or a nun, then we're going to be good at it. And our motivation will be strong. And that motivation will lead us to keep our monks and nuns' vows all the way until we die. However, if you just go for it directly, you just decide one day that you want to become a monk or a nun. After you become a monk or a nun and you have the vows, you have to live by them. For some people, it can be constrictive because they don't understand the full benefit and meaning of the vows. And then it's actually liberating. The actual word for the vows is pratimoksha. It means self-liberating vows. Okay? And all these vows do is actually to help you to stop doing negative actions in one way or another. Over time, they might not be able to handle the vows and living as a monk or a nun. Hence, they give back their vows or they disrobe, like Rinpoche has talked about. So, I would say the motivation is different. Because the way in which you benefit and help others is also different. When you are in Dharma work, it is your work that you that benefits others. For example, you may only be at work for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, but for the rest of the day, you're just being yourself. You go back to your house, you see your families and your friends, you go back to your old habits, which might be negative and might be detrimental to your spiritual path. Okay? Whereas if you are a monk or a nun, every single minute you are awake is dedicated to the Dharma. Every single minute that you are doing something is benefiting a person in some way or another. So I hope that difference makes sense. So Sukfan says, in my opinion, the difference between a layperson working in Dharma and a monk or nun is that monks and nuns have renounced from the worldly affairs and towards liberation and enlightenment, just like Lord Buddha did 2,500 years ago, whilst the former is just a career. Yes, I do agree with you, but I do agree with you that it's a career. That is just what people want to do with their lives. Okay? But it can be more than that. If you actually practice the Dharma in your career, you will actually transform for the better. And those are Dharma staff. The real term Dharma staff, okay, should only be applied to people who are in a Dharma environment, but practicing the Dharma. Because just being in a Dharma environment, such as Kechara, does not necessarily mean that you're actually practicing the Dharma. All right, I hope that was clear. Let me know if it wasn't. I think we have time for, let's see. Okay, I'll do one more section and then I will end it there. then we can continue on next week. Okay? Supernatural phenomena. There were no shortcuts even for Lama Tsongkhapa. When new people come to the center and they talk about supernatural phenomena, I would not recommend talking to them about those things. I know there is this thing in Malaysia where people say, the Guru read my mind. The Guru knew the future. Everybody runs to the center to check it out. But how long does that last? I do not encourage that. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe the Guru is really psychic, but that is not what we are in the center to learn. We are not here to see things or get psychic powers from the Guru. We are here to develop compassion and to develop forgiveness. Psychic and mysterious phenomena do exist, and there are people who see things or have experiences. I do not deny that there are mysterious phenomena. There are spirits and ghosts, good and bad. Some people claim that they can see the Buddha. Maybe they can, or maybe they cannot. Either way, it is not a very good idea to talk about it or express it to new people. It is not that these people are wrong, bad, liars, or fakes, but it does not help new people. What they need is to hear something different, something that gives them relief and hope, something that teaches non-materialism, to end hate, anti-war. They need to hear something that creates harmony and gives them a new perspective towards that goal. After all, what are we here to promote? What am I here to promote? I could teach psychic powers, but you still have to start with bodhicitta, compassion, and renunciation. In order for us to gain psychic powers from one of the higher level deities and psychic powers to stay with us in every lifetime, we have to generate those qualities first as a prerequisite. We still have to be nice. What Buddhist psychic monk is not nice? If we want psychic powers, we should aim to achieve psychic powers that are not going to be at the expense of any damage to ourselves. When we seek psychic powers and powers through the wrong avenues or the wrong beings, we will get those powers, but we will also have to pay dearly. Once they give us what we want, they are going to be hanging around wanting something too. Nothing is for free. We are in Buddhism, and nothing is for free either. We have to give up our ego, our hatred, our attachment, our unforgiving nature, and our anger. We have to give it all up to replace it with compassion, love, gentleness, skillful means, and wisdom. Then we will get psychic powers. Some people say that they see Buddha Shakyamuni. When we have coffee with them and the bill comes, they look the other way. What kind of Buddha Shakyamuni vision is that? They are stingy, greedy. They do not even want to pay for their own coffee, and yet they claim they have visions of Shakyamuni. If we claim to have visions of the Buddha, we have to think if we are actually seeing a ghost behind a Halloween costume, dressed up as Tara or Manjushri. These spirits can tell us things and they come true. Then they can tell us another thing and it also comes true, and after a while we depend on them. Behind their mask, they are laughing at us. Spirits are very tricky. Highly realized gurus will tell you they are ordinary, simple human beings and they do not see anything. There is a reason for them to say that. Lama Tsongkhapa had visions of Manjushri for many, many years. He denied it and told Manjushri to go away. The only time he believed it was Manjushri was when Manjushri talked to his guru, and the guru told Lama Tsongkhapa, "You've got to acknowledge your vision. This is Manjushri." Tsongkhapa said, "If my guru said so, then it is Manjushri." Then he started talking to Manjushri. But in the beginning, Tsongkhapa had ignored him. Tsongkhapa felt he was not attained or learned, that he was not a good monk, and that he was very simple. He wondered why someone like him would have the power to see Manjushri. Even after Guru Umapa told him and he acknowledged his visions, Manjushri told him what texts to study and check. Lama Tsongkhapa did not tell people he had a vision, that Manjushri dictated something to him, and that we had better study this because it came from Manjushri. He would say that this great master or Shakyamuni wrote this teaching, that in this particular commentary, and that Manjushri indicated to study this to get a better view. He validated everything he taught by scriptural knowledge and not by visions, although he did have visions. The visions did not give him the knowledge. It is not that when you see Manjushri, you have achieved. The visions directed him to where to study, how to study, and what retreats to do. Manjushri told him what to study and what teachers to go to get what type of knowledge. Manjushri could have taught it himself to Tsongkhapa, but he did not. How would that validate anything to Tsongkhapa's students? The people who have lived closely with Tsongkhapa may have believed that he had visions and believed it was good, but what about people today, 600 years later? Who would wonder if it was true? I am not saying that people who have visions are making invalid claims. I am saying that for today's world, Tsongkhapa's methods work very well, because even when he had visions, the visions directed him to what guru, what practice, and what text to study. There were no shortcuts, even for Lama Tsongkhapa. So I'm going to end it there. Next week we have a very important topic to cover, and that is the topic of succession. Okay, and that will be very valid for us as students of Tsem Rinpoche, because we are preparing for Rinpoche's return. So the section next week will actually talk about what needs to be done. All right, as Rinpoche explained himself. So just before we leave today, I just want to thank our sponsor today. The sponsor wants to remain anonymous. May the global COVID-19 pandemic end soon. May more sentient beings awaken their innate compassion and wisdom. So thank you very much for the sponsor. And if you would like to sponsor any of our online programs, the links are at the bottom of the description. Please do help support us to provide these sharings and these teachings with all of you. And if you're in Malaysia, please stay safe during this time, especially if you're in KL and Selangor. So thank you very much for joining us this morning, and I will see you all here next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.